What's up, YouTube? Um, this video is a follow-up video. Um, I just wrote this. I just realized this in the past hour or so upon starting this recording. This is obviously a video that has more to do with my followers. Um, it's just a follow-up video to the last video that I made um, within the past 5 days. And obviously, yeah, so it was never about if it's indoors or not. So, yeah, just what I wrote here is pretty much my thoughts on it. I realized that, I just recently tried doing the experiment myself. I just tried doing it indoors with a rock versus outdoors, and it pretty much has been the same thing, which made me realize it's just the fact that rock walls, the inner micro rock walls that surround the holes of rocks are way more dense than the ones of metals. So this would explain why on the miniature stove or with a torch for a metal being hit with fire, it would have been able to, or not hit with fire. Like I said, a miniature stove is something I used for metals, but the same way I use it for a rock, but for metals, they change color really quick, change element, versus the metals, they don't, because their walls don't push against the heat orbs. They can't resist they can't push against the heat orb trying to break its way in for as long as rock walls can. So these rocks are physically more harder. So to my followers, obviously don't try to do this thinking that you're going to make a diamond in seconds. It's not possible. The only thing this implies is that you don't have to make a diamond then to get something really worth a lot of money or millions. You just could go back to what I was saying about making gold. Just heat it up until it becomes more and more gold color. There's different degrees of gold. So just distinguishes that rocks have a far higher durability in these instances against these against any level of heat, obviously. So yeah, but you might be somebody who just wants to make a diamond instead of a metal because you just think that you have a higher chance of making more money with a diamond than metal. Well, now you know that it's not going to happen in seconds. The only way around this, I guess, would be to take the heat orb and shoot it really hard into the hole for a rock walls. Because if you shoot it at a higher velocity, it can push against the walls harder than if it goes in slower. So it kind of also then would depend what you're shooting it with. So I guess you could technically do it, but not the way where it's just on. That's more like if you're using a torch, I guess. And if a torch that shoots out the heat really fast versus or rather, you don't really have to have a torch to shoot out heat really fast. You really could just take heat and increase the temperature of the heat particles you have, because then they're already going to move around and shoot around and travel around faster anyway, which, for that, you don't have to use a torch. You can just, but generally, the only things that can do it that we have technologically available to us in this day and age is torches well, yeah, like I said, either that or a kiln, but that's just, with the kiln, like I said, the kiln has a constraint. Typically, kilns will have the constraint of having too much airflow, cold air that has to get in for it to not overheat. So, and everything else, if you do it indoors and then you're using a miniature stove, well, miniature stoves don't really get that hot. They don't produce fire level heat per se. Well, at least not the one I was talking about. But some do, so I guess you could theoretically then, if it's fire level heat, the level of heat where it's the particles are moving so fast that you can actually see the fire, you can actually see the heat, which is what we call fire. Whereas other levels of heat can't really see them. Before that, you don't see them. So, I guess you could theoretically just use your stove and take the flame from the stove and put it on your rock right inside of it. This, of course, with also being the fact that it's indoors, there's no cold air coming in or risk of it. So theoretically, you could also do this on a miniature stove that's done indoors that does produce fire level heat, rather than a miniature stove that's done indoors that doesn't produce fire level heat but just still produces heat, which is the one I was talking about in the last video. So theoretically, this could be done as long as that's enough heat. Like I said, I'm not sure that it is enough heat. I can only say that from my experience, I know that I have put torch flames and fire directly onto rocks before, but when I've done it for what was, more than a few seconds, and they still didn't really become transparent. So it is I guess just not really not sure how to say this, but say like theoretically it's not that hard to make this happen. You just have to shoot it out with not high enough speed. But I've tried this with certain torches. Not every torch is the same. So, I mean, yeah, it just depends on a number of factors. I'd say the torch I used was a miniature torch, and it didn't work. I also tried a map gas torch on rocks, and they still didn't. They became glowing red hot. They weren't getting any cold air to come onto them for the specific section of the fire just sitting on the rock. Obviously, this wouldn't be possible because any cold air that would come near it would just get turned into fire by the fire that was already there. Or not turned into fire, but would just get heated up, but turned into hot air. But if this is really the case, then there's no way with rocks, at least with what we have technologically available to us in modern day, to turn them into precious rocks in seconds. But you can do it over the course of, I'd say, at least from my own experimentation, a day, a long amount of hours, a few days. But you definitely can't within a few seconds. I mean, you can, but not a large-sized precious rock. You only turn rocks into precious rocks in a few seconds but they'd be really small, which isn't worth anything. So in the economy. So like I brought up before. So your best bet is really to just, how do I say this? Don't overthink this like I did. Just use what I said in this video. And yeah, like I'd say, if you really do want to make whatever of the precious things I've talked about, if you want to make the one or the ones that are going to get you the most money, then yeah, just do your research, because some of them, are not proportionate terms of how much you get in the market if you sell them versus the real value of the material in other ways. But anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. I'd say I'm not going to say it's not possible to make diamonds in seconds that are large size, but again, not with what's technologically available to us today's day and age. But one more thing I was going to say is that technically the way it works, there is pretty much zero chance of there being any way to get a rock inside of a crevice. Get a micro heat particle in the crevice of a rock that's without any resistance, because once there's a heat particle inside of a hole, like I said, it's already taking up all the space of the hole. And so it's either taking up all the space of the hole or it's not. And somehow what happens is, how do I describe it? The reason it stays in there if it's not taking up all the space is because everything is just like pushing against everything else. They're all pushing against each other. So, like if you have a room, like you have multiple rooms in a house, but not every bit of space is taken up against them, but it doesn't mean everything is going to fly out of the rooms per se, even if the doors are open. So yeah, but I will say that if there ever was a hole in any substance that was fully taken up in all of its space, there could be a way to get it out of that, but I'd say probably, like I said, you have to launch something at what's there to push it out with high level temperature, or some other, wouldn't have to be heat that you're launching at it. You could use something that isn't heat to launch at it, or what we call heat to launch at it. It could be something that we don't commonly refer to as heat to launch at it to get it out. So realistically speaking, there is a way to how do I say this, make a diamond by that method as well. But yeah, so if anything goes wrong, there's always a way to do it, but you might have to use more than what's technologically common and get creative using, like, so yeah, like you could use like the sorts of things I was talking about if you were confused. But yeah, other than that, I'd say there's like no other options for making a diamond in seconds. But for precious metals, you can do it in seconds, whether it's indoors or outdoors. And yeah, that's about it. That's all there is to say about it. And I'd say one other thing is that we obviously are probably better off sacrificing the weaker substance that will get us rich. So that would be metals. So we're probably better off making any sort of precious substance I've talked about on this channel, which is various. Have it be metals, not rocks. But yeah, that's all there is to say in this video. Thanks. Bye.